So this is going to be part 4 of the garden tour, and I'm just going to do a thorough job. I've decided, since I've already gone into more than one part, might as well go ahead and give a full tour of this garden because it is just massive. I've got 5 different sections, not including the flower beds, and I'm just really trying to get everything up and going, and I'm maybe thinking about doing some master gardener plans. We shall see. There's still mistakes that I make, but I've noticed that there's still mistakes that master gardeners make. So one of those, I just wanted to comment about that, was recently I had seen a video put out, and I won't say the name of the master gardener, but this master gardener said it doesn't matter what time of the day that you water plants. If they need water, give them water. And then I noticed that, I think it was M.I. Gardener came on couple of days ago with a video that said, if you're going to water your plants, you better be doing it when it's not during the heat of the day. And that was what I had commented to this other particular master gardener. I said, you do not want to water your plants, no matter if they need water or whatever, in the hot part of the day with the sun, because it's going to kill them. It will wilt your plants and kill them. It will kill them at the roots. So do not water your plants, please, during the heat of the day. In fact, it's best to water your plants in early morning. If you have to, late in the evening, but definitely before it gets dark. And there's been times when I've had to water after dark. I've not had any problems with that, but I try to avoid it if possible. Early morning, 5-6 a.m. If you can get your butt up out of bed and you can get out there and water your plants, it'll be the best time. Or if you absolutely have to, late in the evening but before it gets dark, because that gives you pest pressure, especially if you have slugs in certain areas. I have slugs here, but I have never had an issue with them, because you can use certain things to get rid of slugs. One of those things that I have used before is salt. If you pour salt on a slug, it will kill the slug. And that will keep the slugs at bay if you want to use salt. But don't let the salt get into your soil, because that can create other problems. So anyway, getting back into the tour, here's the red curry squash again. And right in front of the red curry and between the beans, I planted a row of red velvet lettuce. And it is all coming up. As well as I had planted some lettuce underneath the trellises here for the cucumbers. And I planted Great Lakes leaf lettuce here on this section, and then a gourmet blend of leaf lettuce over here in this section. There's red and green and all kinds of colors in there. So we have that. And you're now looking at the dill and the coriander and or cilantro and the bean section. And right in front of the coriander or cilantro, I have 6 more of the original pepper plants that I had started from seed. And they're really beginning to put on some growth now. And then I have a small plot right over here where I have tucked in some more of those pepper plants, which are doing just great. And then we have some shallots that I had picked up a couple of weeks ago. And within those 2 weeks, those shallots have just really impressed me with the amount of growth that they have. I also planted some sunflowers in the middle section, which are just now beginning to come up. So I've got some staggering sunflower blooms that should be happening in the fall. And I've also got one red curry squash over here. And I will probably trellis this one, even though I don't really like trellising squash. That's another pet peeve of mine. Do not trellis your squash, because squash has roots along each section or joint, and that helps to carry nutrients further out throughout the plant. So if I trellis this one, I will trellis it close to the ground, because I want it to reach the ground and be able to put roots in those joints. Now, it doesn't have to have every single joint that has roots into the ground, but at least most of them. So we have that. And then over here in this section, which you can see now because I'm going to show you a full pan of my garden. You can see it wraps around the house. And I had expanded this garden in the spring another 10 feet or so in this section. And use pinwheels, by the way, if you can, all around your garden. That keeps birds and things out of the garden. Magpies are a real problem. They will ignore these things. So you really want to have a scarecrow, which I haven't had a chance to get out yet. But if you have a scarecrow, move it every few days, and that will keep the birds from getting into your garden. They'll think that there's a person out there and that person's moving. So they stay kind of fearful of the scarecrow. So definitely get yourself a scarecrow if you can, and move it every few days. That helped Justin Rhodes, by the way, because I had suggested that. And he has a huge garden channel. And this is the onions again over in the other section with my roses. And guys, they're struggling. And now I'm beginning to think it wasn't the hailstorm. I think it was the onions that I had gotten. I picked these up at Menards. And they were onion sets. And I've noticed that a couple of them have started going to seed, which means that these onions were probably sitting around for a while. And there's a whole explanation I think that M.I. Gardner has about why your onion sets will go to seed sometimes. And I'm just going to leave them. We'll see what they do, but they're not really getting any bigger than what they are. So I don't think I'm going to have any onions this season. And I'm going to actually start from either slips next season or seed. I'm kind of done with the onion sets. I've had a couple of bad seasons of picking up onion sets at Menards or Tractor Supply or wherever I pick up the onion sets, and I think it might be where they're getting them supplied from here in Wyoming. But I had one really, really good year of onions, and that's been a couple of years ago. So I'm just not going to do these onion sets again. I'm going to either start with seed or start with slips. So word to the wise on that one. Anyway, so these are my roses that I had mentioned these before. This is more of a pink rose that then turns white once it blooms into full bloom. So you can see here, these are white. But then if you look at the roses here in the back that have just started blooming, they're more pink. So this is an older variety, I think. It smells wonderfully. And then versus this red rose, which blooms about the same way, it doesn't have much of a smell at all. So putting on a lot of new growth. I had really trimmed these back, so I'm very happy that they are blooming, looking beautiful. I've got some more cabbages started in some pots here. And only 3 of those came up, which I'm kind of happy about because I didn't need all of them. And we've got more asparagus that's coming along, guys. And I'm just going to let this go to fern because this is only the 2nd season on these asparagus, and you really want to harvest in 3rd season. And then the peach rose is still trying to bloom, guys. It's taken a while. And it always takes a little bit longer because I think it is a long stem variety. And then we've got some sunflowers tucked here in the back. Got a group of, I think 4 or 5 in there. 5, okay. And we've got some hens and chicks in a pot here. And then I've got the mini roses, and I picked up 3 varieties of the mini roses. I've got red, peach, and purple. I actually have a lavender colored mini rose. So this one is the red, and it had bloomed, and I cut those back, and now it's starting to get some more buds on it again to bloom. We've got some garden sage here in this little planter here. And then I had picked up another one of the hanging pots, which is just doing wonderfully. This is a pastel color. And this iris is already bloomed and gone. And then we got some coleus here in this little tin, which is all now starting to come up. Another rhubarb doing beautifully. And is starting to put up another 3rd leaf now, and is impressing me with the amount of growth that it's doing. And then we've got some more zinnias planted all through this section. And I've got some cress in this planter here. And I've got another planter. It was like kind of just like a basket. I'm going to put some coconut coir in and a liner and plant some more flowers in here. And what the spare tomato that I had is loving being over here. And I think this is a cherry tomato or a yellow pear tomato, and I don't really care which as long as they give me tomatoes. And it's doing wonderfully. In fact, I'm going to have to start trimming some leaves off the bottom of it. And then this is the lettuce that I had trimmed yesterday, and it's already put on more leaves in one day, overnight. So I've got some more to trim off today. And then we have some summer savory in this little planter, which is starting to come up. And then here is my other two mini roses. They're just getting ready to bloom again. They had blooms that were already came and gone, cut those off, and it is blooming again. So make sure you trim your old blooms off of your plants because it prompts them to bloom again. Anyway, this is the peach one, and this is the lavender one. And then we have a chocolate mint here, tucked away in the back where it's kind of shaded. It gets some dapple sunlight, and it's really loving it. I kind of moved that one in different sections to try to figure out the best place for it. All right, and we will be going into the next section of the garden. All right, and this is basically about plot 4 of my garden, not counting the flower beds that I'm starting to convert. And this is the potatoes. I did go ahead and dig up a few of the red Norland a couple days ago just to see how they were doing. Guys, I'm not liking the size of the red Norland. First time that I had grown these here, they were a little small, and I had a few big ones, so I'm sure I'll probably have a few big ones in here, but they really were not that big. And I really like Kennebec potatoes, and I had not been able to get any Kennebec potatoes, seed potatoes, in the last while I've been here in Cheyenne. And this season I had found some Kennebec potatoes, and I grew those here in the front. This is the first row, is the Kennebec. And this is why I like Kennebec. It's because they get big. They're a big potato. They're just about the size of an Idaho russet. And beautiful plants. They're resistant to a whole lot of things. They stood the hailstorm just fine. They are blooming as they're supposed to, as you can see here. Some of them have bloomed and gone. They're a beautiful potato. They get very, very big, robust. And they're just doing wonderfully. And I've got some Idaho tucked here in the middle, which are blooming. Kind of spindly to me, but that's probably because they're in between two different types of potatoes. But they look great. And then I've got the red Norland. That's the 2 rows right here in the back. They have not bloomed. They are beautiful vines, but the potatoes are kind of small that I have dug. Now, granted, it's only been a month since they've been in, or basically a month and a half. Planted them in on May 15th. They went through a snowstorm, and they were not up. Then they came up after the snowstorm. So there wasn't any problem with them receiving any cold or anything like that. But the potatoes are not very big so far. So I'm hoping they get a little bit bigger because most of the plants are still very, very green. But some of the ones that are in the front, as you can see here, are dying back, which means they're done. And they have potatoes even though they didn't bloom, but they're just not very big. So I'm going to, if I can get my hands on Kennebec next season, it's going to be all Kennebec potatoes. So that will be what I grow, or the Yukon Gold. I had a really good Yukon Gold season last season, and I couldn't find them this season for some reason. Poet and didn't know it. Anyway, that's that. So here we have the white pumpkin that was the first white pumpkin that I had started. Still doing great. Still trying to put on some runners, and just now getting ready to shoot that out and start blooming. And then I've got a second one kind of tucked away here. And where I had dug the potatoes up, I went ahead and replanted some dill. And I haven't decided what I'm going to plant in the back part. And these are the other red Norland potatoes, as you can see, that are dying back. And then I've got crimson sweet watermelon here. And the pot, and they're doing great. Really starting to put on some runners now. And the other 4 that are doing fantastic. And I tucked away some radishes in between. So I've got Another variety, I think, of French breakfast there in between. And then here in the front, I have planted some garden sage that hasn't came up yet because it takes a little bit longer than radishes do to come up. And then I've got some borage right here in the front, which is all up. We kept getting our borage killed out either by the hailstorm or by cold. And then we've got some acorn squash here. And it looks like we're going to have to go into another part of this video. See, I've got a big garden, guys.